Thanks for watching, and thank you for taking the time to purchase the DVD or download it. We're really going to get into the Egyptian Book of the Dead, or the Book of Coming Forth by Day, or Going Forth by Day, depending on which book you get. So now, the Book of the Dead is really a book that a lot of people is confused on. A lot of people really think that the Egyptians was into a lot of demonic stuff, because the book deals with the dead, and the book is really dealing with the transition from death into the afterlife, and the process that the Egyptians feel that was required. So it's involving spells that is written by many different scribes, many different priests, to help the Nasut, or the Pharaoh, through the afterlife. And a lot of people's Book of the Dead is different. I mean, everybody's Book of the Dead is different from another person. Some people have unique things in their book. So we're going to be going through Annie's Book of the Dead. But, we got Hunefra, we have Imhotep, and it's very different when you get into these books. But what we're going to do is we're going to get into the true purpose of the book, what is really hidden behind what E.A. Wallace Budge book says, what this book I'm going to read to you is saying, and what all the books is saying. It's really coded. So there's a different message that you must get from the book. And they don't give it to us straightforward, but the book does provide a lot of insight into exactly what the Egyptians was trying to convey with the Book of the Dead. So we're going to get into it. Again, thanks for taking the time to purchase and watch. Let's get into it. So now, with the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the real name is the Book of Coming Forth by Day, or the Book of Going Forth by Day. You'll see these different names with the books. Now, the book is basically a collection of funerary texts that have spells in them. Now, some of the spells date all the way back to 3000 BCE, so it's a lot of spells in there through different periods of Egyptian history. Now, the purpose of the book is to get the Nasut, or the Pharaoh, through the afterlife, and these spells are supposed to help them get through the afterlife, because when you get there, it's a whole, basically like a test almost that you have to go through before you stand in front of Osiris and have your deeds weighed on the scales of Ma'at. It's a process, and everybody's process is different. Everybody's spells in Book of the Dead is different. So we know Hunefra has one. I talked about his a while back. Imhotep, these are the ones that we actually have the papyrus of. It's either in as in some museum, most likely the British Museum. But the Book of Coming Forth by Day is a very important book. And the thing is, when we get into this one, we're going to talk about the papyrus of Annie, the Book of Annie, his Book of the Dead. We're going to get into it. And the thing is, when you get the book, for anybody who does have it, the book of, we're going to be getting into this book. And the thing is, when you start getting into these books of the dead, you got to remember that, as I talked about before, they really didn't understand Egyptian culture. They really didn't get what a lot of this stuff was about. A lot of the things the Egyptians talked about, many scholars really took these things literally, and they really wrote about a lot of the gods and stuff literally. And we found out in part 3 of Mystery School that it's not a literal thing. You should be taking these gods' word on. You should be really understanding what it's really talking about, and we got into that. But in this book, we're going to really look deeper into the Book of the Dead and understand what's really going on here. Now, as I said, the book is for the Nasut to basically get through the afterlife. And before, the book was really reserved for just the Pharaoh. Remember, the Pharaohs was called the living horrors, and his spells was basically going to help him take his place, with the divine netters, or divine netterus. And this is what you see once you get to the afterlife. The netterus are there, and it's basically like a test, which we're going to get through, that you have to take. So these spells help you get through the process. Now, it was specifically for pharaohs for a while, until like the end of the Middle Dynasty, when they felt like that more prominent people could have a Book of the Dead, and then eventually they felt like, well, everybody can get to the afterlife, not just in the suit, which was called the Living Horrors. They felt like everybody has to go through this. So then a lot of people who had the money could get a funerary priest, or somebody who wrote the spells. a scribe or somebody to actually write out specific, unique spells for them to make their passage through the Book of the Dead. Now, the thing is, again, when you get into these books, like I said, a lot of this stuff is weird, especially how they wrote a lot of these books based off the actual papyrus. And again, if you don't read Metal Netter, it's going to be tough to really figure out exactly what is going on. So again, this is why I make videos, and a lot of the videos that I've put out before has prepared you for this. So you're going to understand a lot that we're going to talk about about the Book of the Dead, the Book of Coming Forth by Day. You're going to understand a lot more than the average person if you watch the videos and the DVDs I've been putting out, because I've been building up to this point. So we know you go into the Pyramid of Unis, Teti, and Pepi, you have Metal Netter all over the wall. You also have funerary texts. And this is where we find a lot of the spells, and there's so many different spells for many different things when you start looking at them. But, the Book of Coming Forth by Day, I'm going to say the Book of the Dead. If I say it a lot, it's just to familiarize you guys because I know you guys familiar with that name. So I'm going to use that more than the Book of Coming Forth by Day. Either way, it's a mouthful. But with the book, when you look inside and you pay attention to how a lot of this stuff was written out, it's confusing, and it's just a lot of confusion, and they kind of sort of mixed a lot of what the Egyptians was actually talking about with a lot of confusion. So we're going to straighten this thing out, because so many people always ask about the Book of the Dead. A lot of people want to get into it and start deciphering it, but they don't know where to begin. Now, if you have seen the videos I've been putting out, or all the videos, and you picked up the Book of the Dead, I guarantee you it's going to make a lot more sense to you. You're going to be like, oh, okay, now you see the Djed all throughout it. The book talks about Osiris a whole lot, and it's a reason why. So we're going to get into all that. It's going to be a lot more clear as we go through. But we're not going to go through the entire book, because it's really no point, because not every Book of the Dead is the same. There is a unique thing about the Book of the Dead that you have to understand that's really important, more important than the rest of the book that we're not going to really go into, because all the other spells, in this case, is unique to Ani, and it won't really fit you or Imhotep or Hunefra or whoever. So we're going to go through the book, the process, and what is the real important part that they didn't really put in the book, and that they probably didn't understand. So now, the Egyptian Book of the Dead is basically based on the papyrus of Ani. That's basically where they get it from. So later, during the Middle Kingdom, we get the coffin text, which is basically like an update to the Book of the Dead. We might as well say it's a little bit different. But, this basically shows you that, well, one thing is all about, the afterlife. But this basically shows you how much the ancient Egyptians was really into the afterlife, and how everything was about preparing yourself for the afterlife. So, again, when we see a lot of the tombs, when they left so much gold and so much emphasis was placed on the afterlife. Remember, the Egyptians didn't accept nobody's culture. When you came in there, you came to study. They wouldn't do anything that was outside of Kemet, because Kemet wasn't really about progression. It was about the past. It was about going back and understanding what the ancestors was doing, what they did, and trying to remember, exactly how things was, and, regain the consciousness that they lost. A lot of it had to do with the afterlife. Again, this is basically like a small part of our life here on Earth, and the Egyptians seeing that, everything really begins with the afterlife, and it's a process which we're going to really get into to help you understand a lot more. Some of the stuff I touched on before, but you're going to really get a real good update and understanding, with this video. As I said, I saved it because we really couldn't start getting into the Book of the Dead until we really talked about some of the stuff we talked about. And, with the last DVD on Mystery School Volume 3, talking about Osiris and the Djed and getting you to understand how a lot of these things are in us, then, it's going to make a lot more sense when we get into the Book of Coming Forth by Day. Because if you just, read this book, you'll make the mistake that a lot of Egyptologists did. And I think, me personally, the book is written a certain way on purpose, to deceive a lot of people. But what's really important when you get in a book is they actually, in this specific book, they actually put in, the illustration, the papyrus, and it's beautiful. It's in there. It's really nice. well done. They did the best job they could to actually get the entire papyrus in there, and I believe it's in order in the book. So that's a cool thing that they did. But that's the main thing you really have to focus on. It's the papyrus. But as they do with the Bible, it's hidden in the words and the way they wrote the book. These people get off on that kind of stuff, hiding the messages inside their words, and that's basically what they did with this book. Because for anybody, and we're talking about scholarly work here, this is not no run-of-the-mill book. This is not, this book was what, $25 at Stanford, and this is a really serious book. Any book on Kemet is considered serious. So if you are a serious scholar, you can't really just put out this book. And we have the actual glyph or the actual papyrus up there as well. And then if you read Metal Netter, you can read the hieroglyphics and you correspond in what they wrote on the bottom with the glyphs. I mean, anybody who can read them can see that, well, they don't know what they're talking about. It doesn't say the same thing, on the papyrus. And this is what we find in this book. But on further inspection, you see what they did. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. They made it for the worthy, I guess. So if you're just a person who was trying to get the book and just trying to have it, or he was a person that was trying to study and understand what it's talking about, they kind of hid a lot of facts and truth in there. They kind of riddled it in their wordage, which is pretty amazing when you understand what it's talking about. But when you start reading it, as we're going to go through and read, it throws you off. It's like, what the hell is he talking about? So you're going to understand that. And because I got so many people who actually have the book and read it and didn't make it past 3-4 pages because they were so confused, they put it down. And a lot of people want more understanding into this. So this is what we're going to get into. And I'm really going to get you guys to understand what is the main basic parts, about the Book of the Dead. Chapter for not letting Ani's heart create opposition against him in God's domain. O my heart, which I have from my mother. O my heart, which I had from my mother. O my heart of my different ages. That's important. We're going to get into that. Do not stand up as a witness against me. Do not be opposed to me in the tribunal. Do not be hostile to me in the presence of the keeper of the balance. For you are my Ka, which was in my body, the protector who made my members hell. Go forth to the happy place whereto we speed. Do not make my name stink to entourage who make men. Entourage is another name that they use for suit. So do not make my name stink to suit who make men. Do not tell lies about me in the presence of the God. It is indeed well that you should hear. Thus say Thoth, judge of truth, to the great Ennead, which is in the presence of Osiris. Hear this word of very truth. It says, word spoken by he who is in the embalming chamber. Pay attention to the decision of truthfulness and of the plummet of the balance according to its stance. You might not see this on the screen, but this is what it's saying in the book. I have judged the heart of the deceased, and his soul stands as a witness for him. His deeds are righteous in the great balance, and no sin has been found in him. He did not diminish the offerings in the temples. He did not destroy what has been made. He did not go about with deceitful speech while he was on earth. Thus say the great Ennead to Thoth, who is in Hermopolis, this utterance of yours is true. The vindicated Osiris Ani is straightforward. He has no sin. There is no accusation against him before us. Amet shall not be permitted to have power over him. And that's Amet right there, ready to devour the heart. Let there be given to him the offerings which are issued in the presence of Osiris, and may a grant of land be established in the field of offerings as for the followers of Horus. Thus says Horus, son of Isis, I have come to you, O Winnefer, and Winnefer is another name for Osiris, and I bring Ani to you. His heart is true, having gone forth from the balance, and he has not sinned against any god or any goddess. Thoth has judged him in writing, which has been told to the Ennead, and Ma'at the Great has witnessed. Let there be given to him bread and beer, which have been issued in the presence of Osiris, and he will be forever like the followers of Horus. Thus say Ani, here I am in your presence, O Lord of the West. There is no wrongdoing in my body. I have not wittingly told lies. There has been no second fault. Grant that I may be like the favorite ones who are in your suite, O Osiris, one greatly favored by the good God, one love of the Lord of the two lands, Ani, vindicated before Osiris. So what is this scene about? What is this scene about? We've seen this scene a lot. We've seen this depiction a lot. And Ani is talking about, not letting his heart create opposition against him. Basically not letting his heart deceive him. So the whole thing is, when we get into the whole metaphysics of it, what it's talking about consciousness-wise. So your heart is basically, what holds a lot of emotion. We always say, I have a heavy heart. Somebody died or something like that, or this weighs heavy on my heart. I have a burden, that your heart carries. And a lot of times this deals with problems that we have in life. You lost somebody, or you did something wrong that you feel guilty about. Mostly dealing a lot with guilt and pain and sorrow and stuff like that. So the whole purpose when you start going to the scales of Ma'at is when your heart is weighed. Remember, we just said having a heavy heart means you have something on your heart. So your heart is going to be heavier than the feather of Ma'at. So then, you're going to be found, wanting, and, it's going to devour that heart. So Ani is saying, don't let my heart create opposition, because one thing is clear. He is not 100% innocent. So when he's standing before the gods and you're confessing, you're giving the 42 negative confessions, and you're saying, I did not do this, I did not do that. Let's keep it real. Most people have committed a lot of these so-called sins. So he's saying, heart, don't deceive me. Don't create no opposition. I know you know the truth. When we get here, I need you to be calm and cool. So, you don't reveal stuff to these guys that I don't want revealed. This is what he's talking about. So this goes back into the mummification process. So when you're being mummified, and you would leave back then instructions for the priest to do certain things. So now one of the things they would do was they would put the scarab beetle over the heart. Remember, all the organs are removed. Your brain is pulled out through your nostrils. Everything is taken out except for the heart. The heart stays with the body and it's wrapped, and they put a scarab beetle over it. What the beetle is going to do is going to basically cover what you don't want the gods to know. Annie's like, oh my God, I'm going through this thing now. Heart, don't let me down. I'm about to go in front of the scales. So again, the scale is symbolic of, when you're weighing things, you're trying to find the balance. And when we're talking about here on a conscious level, it's the balance of the subconscious and conscious mind. This is one of the things that you must have in order, to get here. What is, all this stuff is not real stuff that actually happened to you. This is all symbolic, and it's symbolic about a few things, which we'll get into. So, if you just killed somebody, you just did something crazy or bad, you can't have that burden on your heart. And not just that, you can't really become a conscious person, truly conscious, uniting the subconscious and conscious mind if you're doing stuff like that. But, stuff small like telling a small lie, or stuff like, making somebody cry for whatever reason, playing little jokes, that's not something that's basically going to corrupt you entirely. It's just small things that we do. And which is why Annie was allowed to pass through. It worked out for him, as we'll see. So consciously, the scale represents balance. And we understand, I always talk about uniting the conscious and subconscious mind. And in doing so, you basically awaken the third eye. And, this is how, you basically get here. You can't get here without awakening the third eye. So the whole thing is, when we look at the depiction, when you follow it through Ani's Book of the Dead, the next step is, he makes it past this stage, and he is brought unto Osiris by Horus, and this is where the Bible stole, John 14:6, no man comes to the Father but by me. So we're talking about Horus here. You cannot get to Osiris without Horus, plain and simple. You need Horus to get there. So on a conscious level, what is it saying? It's saying that, as I talked about in part 3, what is Horus? Horus is the third eye. Horus is the pineal gland. So you need to awaken that pineal gland in order to get to Osiris. Okay, so now let's break this down in its entirety according to how the Egyptians describe what happens in the afterlife. So, when you die, again, you meet with Anubis. Anubis guides you through the afterlife. Now, you must be dressed in white linen, wearing sandals, and you must have black paint under your eyes. So then you basically recite, this is basically spell 125. And you recite basically, you give thanks to Osiris. It starts out with the hymn to Osiris or whatever. Basically kind of sort of kissing Osiris' ass, oh great Osiris, a great, one who rules the hall of justice or what have you. So you're going down the hall of truth, the hall of justice. Once you finish reciting the spell to Osiris, you move forward into the hall, and you basically come before the 42 gods. Now, when you come before the 42 gods, you basically give your declaration of innocence, or the 42 negative confessions, where you basically say, I have not done this, I have not done that. And if your declaration of innocence is accepted, if your 42 negative confessions is accepted, then you move forward and you have to answer each god, all 42 gods. You have to answer a question. You have to address all 42 and answer their questions. But you also have to know each of their names, and you must know what they represent. You also need to know the name of every door in the room, and you must know the name of your feet and the floor, because the floor is going to address you when it's all over, and it's going to want you to know its name, and it's going to want to know the name of your feet before it lets you tread on it, so to speak. So they ask you questions, and, if you answer the questions correctly before each of the 42 gods, the floor will say, well, I know, you know me, I know you, you can go on ahead and go forward. And, and then this is when your heart is weighed on the scale of Ma'at against the feather. So your heart is placed on the scale. If it's lighter than a feather or balanced, you can move forward. If it's not, then the heart is thrown on the floor where Amit devours it and basically destroys it and your soul. So if you move forward, then you go forward before Osiris. So now understand what these beings are representing here. You have Anubis, which is the jackal, which is in the genus Canis, gene or species, a dog. Dogs guide you through your physical life. Dogs guide the blind, so to speak, because you're, supposedly blind through the afterlife. Not really if you got those spells, though. So that's Anubis' role. But then you get to Thoth. And Thoth is there, or Tahuti is there to basically record everything. So now with Thoth, Thoth is the god of wisdom. Why wisdom? Thoth is there. When you look at what Thoth is representing here on a metaphysical level, on a conscious level, he's representing the wisdom you have of all your past lives. So when Ani was talking about my heart that I had, with me through the ages, he's talking about all his past lives. So Thoth is there recording the wisdom of all your past lives. If you pass through judgment, then you are given, you take everything with you. You have the knowledge of all your past lives as you go forward. If not, and Amit devours your heart and basically drags you, to the underworld, basically hell, or back to earth, then, your knowledge is basically put in your subconscious, is locked away. And, it's just like with the dream world, when you go to sleep, you have absolutely no clue that you're actually in reality dreaming. You just wake up, in your bed, except for in this case with the Book of the Dead, if Amit drags you back to earth, to hell here, then, you wake up, being reborn, still having all that wisdom of the ages, the knowledge of all your lives is still locked away in the subconscious. And, what's going to be at the forefront, is the consciousness that you get from your parents, the traits. we inherit all these traits from our parents. But this is why I always say you got to be careful. You got to understand what you put into your consciousness, which is why I give you this information to get into your consciousness, because something can happen to you in life that triggers, that sparks a reminder or, an attachment, an attraction to this knowledge. And then you'll pick up in, your next life, this information, and you'll continue down that path again. And perhaps you'll maybe do what's necessary to open a third eye and to become conscious again. I get, emails and messages from a lot of people from a lot of different places, black, white, what have you, that grew up in churches. I grew up in the church. And most of these people always say the same thing. I just don't feel the same way about Christianity as my parents do. My uncle was a preacher. But a lot of these people be having fathers and mothers that's like pastors and preachers and really high in the church. They go to church every Sunday, 3 times a week. And they be the outcast of the family, talking about, I just feel like Kemet is the truth, and what I'm hearing about the Egyptians is real. I'm not attracted to Christianity. I'm attracted to this. So in this aspect, when you think about the recording of that wisdom and what Thoth is doing and taking that wisdom, and either you'll have it with you, and we're going to get into this a little bit more, or, it's just sent back to this world and you start all over again from scratch. So, all these gods here have a role, and you have Amet, which is, he's a crocodile, a lion, and a hippo, because the Egyptians basically took the 3 biggest animals that hunt and kill men that they can find and put it here to just symbolize, the worst possible thing that can happen to you as far as having your soul and heart devoured. They picked these 3, just like, with the Europeans when they picked the whole Satan boogeyman thing in hell. The worst terrible thing that can happen to you is you just burn for eternity. What kind of pain would that be? They came up with that and gave us hell and the hellfire to scare us. The Egyptians gave us Amet. But when you look at this whole papyrus, we look at this whole scroll here of Ani and his Book of the Dead, and this scene here, what it's talking about, is so much going on here. And, when you understand what it's talking about on a conscious level, metaphysically, and what everybody is representing, then you really start to understand, what it's talking about. You see the gods at the top representing 42 gods, and so many things going on in this scene. But, Thoth is one of the most important things here, understanding wisdom. Why would he be there, with the ibis head, writing what? What data are you collecting if you don't make it? Amit devours you in your soul, and that's it. It's gone. So you gotta look into it more deeply and understand. He's collecting the wisdom, and Ani kind of gives it away when he's talking about the heart that he had through my ages, throughout history, throughout his whole history. So it's gonna make a lot more sense when we get back into where Ani's at. As far as the afterlife, and then what he does. So again, when you start to read this book on the surface, it's really confusing. It really throws you off on a lot of different things. This is what it's talking about metaphysically. So I definitely want you to get this. So now we see Horus bringing people before Osiris. Ani, Imhotep, or Hunefra. He's bringing people before his father Osiris. And we got to understand, one, there is no Horus, as I talked about. There's no Horus. He's not there. And the person is not there. Horus is just representing, when you put the 2 together and you combine it, it's representing the consciousness of that person that passed. It's his consciousness that's moving through the afterlife. Osiris represents the transition between one existence to another. That's one of the things he represents, especially in this aspect. So it's a lot more to this. But let's go to plate 7. And it says, here begins praise and recitations going in and out of the God's domain, having benefit in the beautiful west, being in the suite of Osiris, resting at the food table of Winifred, who is Osiris, going out into the day, taking any shape in which he desires to be, playing at Senet. And Senet, if you look up here at the depiction, is that board game that he's playing while his wife looks like she's doing his hair or something like that. But that's Senet. sitting in a booth and going forth as a living soul by the Osiris Ani after he has died. It is beneficial to him who does it on earth. We're going to get into that. It's deep. Now, coming to being all the words of the Lord of all. I was Atum when I was alone in the primordial waters. We got into this. I was Re in his glorious appearings when he began to rule what he had made. What does it mean? It means Re when he began to rule what he had made, when he began to appear as king before the support of Shu had come into being. When he was upon the hill which is in Hermopolis, when he destroyed the children of impotence on the hill which is in Hermopolis. I am the great God, the self-created. Who is it? The great God, the self-created, is water. He is Nun, father of the gods. Otherwise said, he is Re. He who creates his name, Lord of the Ennead. Who is he? It is Re, who has created his name and his members. It means the coming into existence of those gods who are in his suite. I am he who is not opposed among the gods. Who is he? He is Atum, who is in his sun disk, otherwise said. When you look at the depiction and follow it across, you'll see some of the things that I'm saying is right in the depiction. They just scrambled it up here for a reason. We're going to get into that. He is Re when he rises in the eastern horizon of the sky. To me belongs yesterday, I know tomorrow. That's important. To me belongs yesterday, I know tomorrow. What does it mean? As for yesterday, that is Osiris. As for tomorrow, that is Re. On that day in which the foes of the Lord of all were destroyed and his son Horus was made to rule. Otherwise said, that is the day of the We Remain festival. And there's a lot of festivals that go on in Kemet. When the burial of Osiris was ordered by his father, Re, the battleground of the gods was made in accordance with my command. What does it mean? In the West, it was made for the soul of the gods in acceptance with the command of Osiris, Lord of the Western Desert. Otherwise said, it means that this is the West, to which Re made every god descend, and he fought the two up for it. I know that great God who is in it. Who is he? He is Osiris. Otherwise said, his name is Re. His name is praise of Re. He is the soul of Re, which whom he himself copulated. I am that great Bennu bird, which is in Hermopolis, the supervisor of what exists. And the Bennu bird also represents the sun and rebirth and creation. That's something to think about. Who is he? He is Osiris. As for what exists, that means his injury. Otherwise said, that means his corpse. Otherwise said, it means eternity and everlasting. As for eternity, it means daytime. As for everlasting, it means night. I am men, and his going forth. I have set the plumes, and plumes is basically feathers, on his head. What does it mean? As for men, he is Horus, who protected his father. As for his going forth, it means his birth, important. As for his plumes on his head, it means that Isis and Nephthys, who when you look up there by the body, that's Ani's body, all mummified in the coffin and everything. When you look at the two hawks there, that is Isis and Nephthys. Isis and Nephthys went and put themselves on his head when they were the two kids, and they were firm on his head. Otherwise said, they are the two great and mighty Uriah, which are on the brow of his father, Atum. So now, this plate 7 is one of the most important plates in the Book of the Dead, in the Book of Going Forth by Day. Because this plate is going to really help you understand what that means, coming forth by day. And this whole entire plate, what is being said here, everything I just read, is basically talking about the afterlife and being reborn again, coming back, to earth. So the afterlife and what you can do, what's possible, what he's doing with his conscious energy, and then being reborn, coming back. And the Benuberg, deals with the sun and creation, rebirth, or what have you, which is why I talked about that, and which is why it really got into the whole thing. Now, you'll see this a lot in the Book of the Dead when it's talking about the Osiris Ani. And you got to understand what it means in that aspect. And we're going to get into that in a second. But, it's talking about rebirth. It's talking about reincarnation, so to speak. So you got to understand. Remember, he's dead. He's basically, he has the knowledge. And one of the things about the Egyptian underworld that you'll see, they talk about, you having your plot of land to basically go and tend to. It's work you got to do. This is where the Bible stole that from in the book of Genesis. Remember, in the Garden of Eden, the whole garden thing, where did that come from? Now you see where it come from, because in Egyptian underworld, you have a plot of land, a garden, so to speak, that you have to tend to, that you have to basically plant. You got a little job to do. You got to plant in the field or whatever. So this is where the Bible stole the whole garden story. Stole it from here. That's one thing. And, Adam tilling the ground. That's where they stole it from. Stole it from here. So he's talking about, the afterlife and what he's doing. He's with his wife. He's playing board games. He can be anything that ever happened during his existence. He can experience any experience he's ever experienced in any lifetime. Plain and simple. He can go through it all. That's why he's describing, I was Ray, or I was the Atum. I was alone in the waters of noon, in the dark waters. He's talking about the beginning of creation and everything like that. And he's basically describing what he can do. I can be anybody. I can go through any of the experiences. I can be, there when impotence was wiped out in Hermopolis, all kinds of stuff like that. He's talking about what he can do in the afterlife as far as having the knowledge that he has. It's going to make a lot of sense in a second. So then you would think to yourself, and a lot of people would say, if you, make it through judgment, the afterlife, you see the whole process you got to go through. You got to know the spells. You got to be able to know all these guys' names to answer the questions. You got to have a name for your feet. I mean, if you make it through all that, why in the world would you want to come back here? Why would you want to come back to Earth? So, and it's something you got to understand when I talked about before, our purpose. And this is one of the reasons why I said that and where I got it from. Because one of the things our purpose of being here is to develop. It's develop your conscious energy. And this is what he's describing when he's talking about Ray, talking about the sun. This whole thing is really about energy and consciousness and coming back. And this is what you would need to come back. And the reason why you would come back is because all your past lives is an experience that you had in the past. So when he says that to me belongs yesterday, I know tomorrow. That's why I say that's important to understand. To me belongs yesterday, because everything that happened before he died, he knows it belongs to him. Tomorrow, he knows because he's going to create tomorrow. Tomorrow is whatever he wanted it to be. Is what he can only create tomorrow from what he knows. And you got to understand, you can watch somebody ride a bike. You can watch somebody play basketball. You're not going to truly understand it and know it unless you experience it. So you grow. Remember, consciousness needs reality in order for it to grow. This is what this whole thing is about. You cannot have consciousness without existence. And that's a big debate that a lot of people get into, which one was here first, existence or consciousness? Well, consciousness has nothing to perceive without existence. So existence had to be here first. So when you want to really, really get deep into it, you talk about that. So you only can grow consciously and energetically off of your experiences in life. So when he's talking about I was men, and men has many different aspects. So men is the fertility god. Men has many different forms. In some aspects he could be Kim, which is god of reproduction. Another aspect he could be Khnum, who is the god of creation. Remember, Khnum fashioned man on the potter's wheel. So men has many different forms. Men is the son of Osiris and Isis. So that's another thing to understand. But when you see men, you'll never forget men. Men is the one who you always see with that erect penis, holding the flail, with the feathers or whatever on his head, the whole thing on his head. This is how you always see men. So a lot of people, when they see men, they don't forget that. And it has to deal with rebirth. It's just that simple. So here, he's talking about I was men. He was being men. And he's talking about men in the aspect of rebirth. So whenever you see, when it's talking about Osiris Ani, it's basically talking about what is Osiris, as we talked about in part 3 of Mystery School. Osiris, and that aspect is the spine. So Osiris Ani would be the spine attached to Ani, or whatever Ani incarnates as. So when it's saying here, it said, going forth as a living soul by the Osiris Ani. After he had died, it is beneficial to him who does it on earth. So, going forth as a living soul by the Osiris Ani, how would you come back? The spine. Remember, sex. This is why I got into that whole thing. As I said, I make videos for a reason. Sexually, when you have the stimulation, you're having sex, you have the thought, even during sex, you have the consciousness to create the energy, goes to the hippocampus, down the fibers of the coronary plexus to the fornix, and this is that whole process happens down to the sacral nerve, and have the erection, and this is constantly going on, with sex. It's the abundance of energy that's taking place. This is how he's going to come down, but it's going to be down the spine, the jad. So this is how he's going to come back. So when it's saying going forth as a living soul by the Osiris, and he's talking about the spine. And when you pay attention to the aspect of men, he's talking about the Benu bird, which has to do with rebirth, creation. Men, who has to do with fertility, has to deal with creation. He's talking about being recreated. This is what that giant penis is for. So he's talking about coming back through sexual union. So he's giving you here death and rebirth in heaven, or whatever you want to call it, and doing all these things and being able to manifest whatever and live any existence. Then it says it is beneficial to him who does this on earth. It is beneficial because this is how you grow in consciousness. This is how you grow in energy when you come back, because then you can have a new experience, and then when you die again, you can bring that experience back, to you. So understand, this is what it's getting into in this whole plate here, plate 7. Really important to understand that rebirth was something that they believed in. And I got a DVD coming up on Buddhism where we're going to get into that as well. So really believed in reincarnation, but it's a twist to it. There's more to it than just, dying and coming back. Because again, I understand the aspect of growing in consciousness, but it's almost like a risk when you think about it, but we're going to get into that. But in that aspect of being the Benu bird and being men and everything that he's talking about rebirth, coming back, and having a new experience that's going to be beneficial to him. So when you look at the Egyptian mummification process and everything that they did, everything was preparing for the afterlife. But then you can't ignore the tombs of the pharaohs and the tombs of prominent rich people in Kemet, and how they kept their gold, and they actually took their stuff with them. They even mummified a cat in a lot of cases because they believed that, they could possibly come back, or that they can have these things in the afterlife. We don't really understand on what level that they would take a material and believe that they can have it, in a spiritual realm. So we got to understand that they still was focused on some aspect of returning to life, and the whole aspect of being dead, being in the afterlife. And it was almost like you needed to have a connection between the two. And that's really important to understand, connection between spiritual, and the physical world. So, you got to really think about, who the Egyptians, when they always was talking about their ancestors, which I'm going to talk about later, who was they talking to? How was they able to commune with them? What was that whole thing about? So, we're going to really get into that in a second, but let's go to plate 15. And it says, chapter for giving breath to Ani in the God's domain. And this is going to confirm, he's talking about rebirth. O Atum, give me the sweet breath which is in your nostril. For I am this egg which is in the great cackler. And the great cackler is Jeb, the earth. What they say when Jeb laughs, it's an earthquake. I am the guardian of this great being who separates the earth from the sky. If I live, she will live. I grow young, I live, I breathe the air. I am he who splits iron. I go round about the egg, tomorrow is mine, through the sprinkling power of Horus and the strength of Seth. O you who sweeten the state of the two lands, you with whom are provisions, you with whom is lapis lazuli, and lapis lazuli is the blue, it's like rock, it's, earth. So when you see the kefri or the dung beetle in blue, that's lapis lazuli. Beware of him who is in his nest. The youth goes forth against you. So that is basically Ani's Book of the Dead, the book of going forth by day, from death to rebirth. When you get to plate 15, it's a lot more to it that is unique to Ani. We're not going to get into all that, but we will go back into the book and touch up on a few things. But he's talking about rebirth. The egg, everything he's talking about, he's describing being reborn, needing the breath of life, which the Bible stole, breathed into his nostrils. Everything. You see parts of the Bible in there where they got it from. Even the translation that the person who wrote this book gave you, even still was on par with that. But, when you get into this stuff, even if you read Metal Netter, it's going to be tough for a lot of people to decipher the metaphysics of it and what it's trying to convey to you consciously. So, him being basically reborn. Remember, he says, tomorrow is mine. Remember before, back in plate 7, he said that tomorrow I know. He said yesterday is mine. Yesterday belongs to me. Tomorrow I know. See, he's being reborn. Tomorrow is mine because tomorrow he will know. He will go through it and experience tomorrow having been born. You have that experience. So so many things he's alluding to. Well, it clearly gives it away. It's talking about rebirth. Now, then he's talking about the striking power of Horus and the strength of Seth. And Horus would be, the energy, the third eye. It would be your conscious energy, the third eye, that's basically going to create that energy that's going to go down the jet, down the spine, and create life. And the strength of Seth, what does Seth represent? Remember, Seth is darkness. You are born in darkness. You are created in darkness, I should say. So that's what Seth represents, the darkness, the melanin, the melanated, all that's going on is happening, as far as the black woman in a melanated era in darkness. With, so much light that we can't see, but on a spiritual, metaphysical sense, it's talking about, all that happening in darkness. So this is what we got to get to. We got to get to who is basically bringing you through the afterlife. As I said, it is you. You are the one who takes yourself through the afterlife. So everybody who was talking about, as I said, all those guys are not there. Nothing is there. You are the one who brings yourself through the afterlife. So again, being reborn, why would you want to go through that process? And what you got to understand is what it's saying, because after Ani, he does all this, but he still exists, in the afterlife. So you have to think about, your energy. What he's done is he's basically sent a part of his energy to be reborn, to experience a new life, while the majority of his energy remains in the afterlife. And this is something big that a lot of people just can't pick up what it's talking about that, because it's kind of sort of confusing the way it's worded. But you got to pay attention to a lot of the glyphs, because you'll get what it's talking about. So, when you think about the ancient Egyptians, man, know thyself. All of the Proverbs, everything that it was talking about was about the afterlife and understanding who you are. So when you are reborn, you go back through the process, the energy, the recording of Thoth, the wisdom that you had in the afterlife. Where does it go? the knowledge that you have a higher self. This is what people talk about, the higher being. That goes into your subconscious, and you are born, with that knowledge. You have to gain the power of Horus, the third eye, combine the power, gain control of the consciousness and the subconscious mind in order to reach your higher self, which would be Ani in the afterlife, reaching the Ani that is being reborn. So again, when the Egyptians are talking about speaking to the ancestors, who are they talking to? They're talking about themselves. They're talking about all the past lives that is there. So if you understand that, when you are reborn, when you come here with a blank slate, not having the knowledge, because something happened here that caused that to happen, for us to not, to be born with not having this knowledge and understanding. So back when this papyrus was written, when the spells was put in there, it was quite possible. Remember I talked about before, it was possible with the Egyptians that, they believed that when you was reborn, when Nasut died and he came back, his energy, he will regain the knowledge of his past life by the age of 10, which is why they allow boy kings. So if you live a spiritual life, you get into meditation, you understand the mystery school teachings and everything like that, and you start to meditate. And as you meditate and you start communicating with your higher self, you start getting hints, and you start getting feelings about things that you don't really understand where it's coming from. You think it's all about you. It's you and this physical being at that moment. But it's, you're getting signals sent to you from your higher self. This is something that is discussed in a lot of ancient religions about your higher self and understanding a connection that you must have. And once you talk about with yogis too, aligning the chakra and you having a spirit guide, you hear people say that all the time, or the guardian angel, we heard that one a lot, that guides you through the rest of your life. So think about it, as I said, who is taking you through the afterlife? You are. So when you look at the whole aspect of Anubis and Tahuti and everything that's going on, that process and the spells and everything that's happening, it's you. It's you guiding yourself through the process of opening the third eye, gaining control of the subconscious and conscious mind, making it one, dying and having this power to move on. And once you gain consciousness and gain access to the third eye, you can reach your higher self to understand and have the knowledge to go further. And then you got to think about something happening here that stopped that. So then we got to understand that process may not be happening. It may not be as it was back when the Egyptians wrote this Book of the Dead, because something is in the way of that. So now maybe it was automatic before, to where, when you're reborn and by a certain age, you can regain this knowledge and you can be in contact with your higher self. But now that's basically blocked. And the only way to unblock it and to move forward is to open that third eye and become conscious, so that you can open the channel to communicate with your higher self. And this is what a lot of esoteric teachings are talking about, a lot of the occult books get into. It's about, your higher self and having that communication with someone who can guide you through the rest of life, so you can make it to the afterlife. So what it's talking about is exactly what I've been telling you about: developing the mind, developing consciously, understanding how to link with the subconscious mind and connect it for the conscious mind and subconscious mind to be one. Opening that third eye, the pineal gland. This is how you see God. This is what we was talking about. And, it says in the Bible, I have seen God face to face and my life is preserved. He called the name of the place Pineal. For I've seen God face to face and my life is preserved. Who is God? You are God. Who is guiding you through the afterlife? You are. This is what it's all talking about. So once you do this, the whole process of, I'm going through the afterlife and all this and that, of course, this is not, literally speaking. It's all talking about the step and process you have to do. Remember, he goes through all that stuff before having his heart weighed on the scale of Ma'at. because you have to go through all that stuff. Remember, the weighing on the scale of my eye is symbolic of you being, the scale represents, the balance. You having Horus. Remember, you can't get to Osiris without Horus. You having Horus. Before any of that happens, he goes through all the questions and the trials and tribulations and all this and that. Then, so it's metaphorically speaking about you having to go through, the knowledge and understanding how to awaken, your Kundalini energy and your third eye, and, uniting the conscious and subconscious mind. And when you've done all that, then you have Horus. You have the pineal, and you can see God. You can see yourself. You can guide yourself through the afterlife and do whatever then. But, it's more to it. So, you want to come back here and develop, your consciousness, your subconscious. And I want you to think about it. It's not, it's a lot more to this, by the way. This whole experience is not unique to just Earth. It's not unique to it. So, you really just got to think about it. We're talking about consciousness here. So even, let's just say if you freaking incarnate in Rigel 7 on planet Reebok, 10, 20 billion light years away from Earth, you would still be consciousness incarnating in a different being. You would have the consciousness or the consciousness of that being, whatever that is, if there are such beings out there on different planets. Just think about that. Even if you incarnated as another being there, it would just basically be consciousness incarnating as another species, and whatever consciousness that created that species, parents or what have you, would be on the forefront of that new body. But dwelling within the subconscious of that being will be you, basically. So you will have a new experience as whatever that is. And you can relate that to animals as well. If you incarnated as a lion or something like that, you would just be in this lion body with this consciousness, gaining a new experience. And that's one of the things that they talk about in Buddhism that we're going to get into. And ancient Kemet too. They talked about reincarnating as animals, and that's something down the line. We'll get into that. It's not always a good thing, but it can be. But it's just another experience of life that you can have and take with you on your next journey to go wherever. We ain't even get into dimensions and everything like that. That's for another time. But it's just basically what it's getting into. All this is alluding to, the rebirth. So we've seen Annie go through the whole process of death and rebirth, and understanding that he's taken with him his consciousness to a new body. He's being reborn. He's going to go through the process again and hopefully make it, to rejoin his higher self. So it's a lot to it, and a lot that we can really refer to in Ani's Book of the Dead. But I said, the rest of that stuff is really unique to him, and we don't really got to get into all that. So now when you understand all this, when you understand, as I talked about, consciousness creating energy, energy creating matter. So we're talking about consciousness basically giving you something in the physical world. So when we talk about, the celebrities talk about put it out to the universe, you'll get it back. Put it out and you'll get it back. What you put out, you get back. Prayer, the whole thing about getting a material thing back from something spiritual. Who is giving you that thing back? What is giving you that thing back? So when you get into the spiritual level, when you're meditating, when you're doing things on a conscious, subconscious level, you're constantly thinking about success. You're constantly thinking about, doing something big, doing something great. This is something that is happening in your consciousness. And then what is giving it back to you? You're giving it back to yourself. You're putting it out to the universe, and you're connecting with your higher self, who is giving it back to you, manifesting it back into your physical reality. So this is what you're connecting with. You're connecting with that higher self that's aiding you through your life, which is why the connection is important. But we can still connect. It's not as easy as it was before, but it's a lot harder. And we really got to tap into the energies. We got to tap into our consciousness in order to do so. But it's being done. I know I can tell you now, and I've been doing it for years now. So you have to really get into meditation. You got to really start understanding how to connect and how to put out that energy so that you can get back and manifest exactly what you want in this physical reality. So this is why I talk about things like, having confidence in yourself, being positive, surrounding yourself with positive people, all the time. No negativity. If you're around negativity, then that's exactly what you're going to get, negative things. And this is how we see. I mean, if you're hanging around a crowd of bad, people selling drugs and gunplay and all this and that, you're going to end up getting caught up. And it's just how it is. We all know that. So, when you are putting out nothing but positive energy, where you're not down on yourself, people being depressed and just thinking that the worst of every time something, they need something to happen, they think the worst. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to get that job. I'm not going to get that promotion. I'm not going to get the money that I need. I'm not going to be able to make it. I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to save enough money to get that. And the more doubt, you put in yourself, the more doubt you have, the less possible it is, because then now you're putting that doubt into your consciousness and you're putting out doubt. You're putting out doubt. You're putting out that it's not going to work. I'm not going to get this. And that's exactly what's going to happen because you put it out there. But if you are, conscious of the situation, and if you are positive about it and you keep on, focusing on it, you meditate about it, it'll happen. It'll happen for you in more ways than one. And, this is why I'm really big on meditation and why you really got to do it and really stick to it. So you really have to have that, that sound mind, and you really got to understand things that you dwell on and think about can really uplift you, or they can bring you down. Fear is the number one thing, which is why everything is surrounded by fear. Fear is the biggest weapon, and that's what they use. So again, if you're fearful of things, scared about losing your job or being poor or what have you, and you're not really putting out positive energy and putting out, physical action to combat that, that's exactly what you're going to get back. So again, when you go into the Bible will be talking about things when it says in 2 Timothy 1:7, for God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Again, same thing, the spirit of fear. And this, we talk about energy because fear is an energy, basically what it is. So you have to have that sound mind. Love trumps all. If you're putting out love, you're putting out positive energy and everything like that, that's exactly what you're going to get back. And it's not enough people doing that. It's not enough people who understand this, because we are emotional people and we react and we deal with our reality based on our emotions, and that's the problem. They have figured out how to manipulate us and make us feel certain ways about things. And by doing that, they can control our actions. So again, if you're acting off of emotion, which mostly everybody does, and they are controlling that emotion, then they are controlling you. They're controlling your consciousness. This is why I got into that whole thing about them controlling our consciousness, because they're using our consciousness to create their new world order, to basically fulfill their agenda. And by so many people not having this knowledge. And I want you to understand how privileged you are to have this knowledge and understanding and to be getting this kind of information, because a lot of people are just not going to get it because they're not going to have the kind of dedication and understanding to want this, or to even understand why it's important. But, it's important to know this and to get into your consciousness and to understand what's going to make you successful down the line. I got my hands business-wise in so many different things that like I said, I put up a post the other day about, I never thought growing up I would be in a position that I'm in, today. But it's just like, it won't stop. It's because, since I've been meditating for over 11 years now, 12 years now, the process of success has been gone and gone and gone. Like, business opportunities been coming up, and I've been getting my hand in so many different things, and, many different income streams, revenue streams, and everything is just working. It's because I meditate on that. I meditate not just for me, but on everybody who follows me, everybody who is trying to reach the level that I'm at, that you guys make it, that you guys have the understanding to do what you need to do to get the knowledge that's going to help you to do that, whether it be watching a video or reading a book or just sitting down and listening to a person talk. Really, really put out that energy that you guys get what you need to make it, to be better than me, to success-wise and spiritually, because that's what I'm doing this for. so that everybody can, surpass this and pass this information, and it just have that effect with everybody, and it just, eventually more people pick up on it, and more people start doing it, and more people start waking up. So think about, again, rebirth as, just having the experience of another lifetime. And again, whether it be on another planet or with another species, even if it's on another planet, we are all children of the atom. No matter what, alien race in some faraway galaxy. I mean, everything's made up of atoms. So this is still consciousness. Everything is still consciousness. So once we understand that, and once we really get the message, it makes a lot more sense, man. I think a lot of people already reincarnated as cats and dogs because they do so many human things. And again, in Buddhism, they talk about people reincarnating as, animals and stuff like that, cats and dogs or what have you. But you look at a lot of these animals these days, they have a lot of human things, human traits characteristics that they've been following. And there's a lot of videos that show that. So when you go back and examine the Book of the Dead, when you look at everything we've been talking about so far as the metaphysics and the conscious understanding of the Book of the Dead, it is all backed up by the story of Osiris, Isis, and Set. It's backed up by that story. So now we know the story. We know the parents of Osiris, Set, Nephthys, Isis, and what have you, is Geb and Nut. And remember, you had Osiris marry Isis and rule Egypt, which is why when I talked about you have so many people who write books actually believing that Osiris was the actual ruler and the being that existed. It's all a metaphorical story that's going to make a lot more sense in a second. So they got married. And remember, you had Set being jealous. He married Nephthys, but he got jealous of Osiris' power, his position. And remember, he made the golden coffin, and Osiris got in it. Long story short, paraphrasing. Osiris got in it, and he basically, eventually chopped the coffin up and chopped his body up in 7 pieces and scattered him about Egypt. Then you have Isis find all the pieces. And the first mummification, when you really get into the story, was what? Was of Osiris. This is the first mummification. Hint, hint here. So remember, the mummification process is for what? To prepare the body for the afterlife. So if Osiris is the first mummification, what was everybody doing before that? What was going on before that? Remember, this is like long after, their creation, and they was ruling. So they had subjects and there was other people. So what was going on before that? So just take that as a mental note. So, mummification happens, and we know Isis changes herself into, bird and makes an erect penis on Osiris, and she is impregnated by him and basically has Horus. Now remember, when they put Osiris back together and he goes into the underworld, why? Because he cannot come back to life. She can't bring him back to the physical world as Osiris. He goes to the underworld, and he is the ruler of the underworld. You get it now. You start to understand a little bit. He's the ruler of the underworld. And then she is impregnated by him and has who? Horus. Who is Horus? It's Osiris. When you get it. So just think about the whole story we just went through, explaining the whole rebirth process. So basically you have Osiris impregnating Isis and giving birth to himself. Osiris dies. He's mummified. He goes into the Duat. He's the underworld or what have you. And he is the ruler there. He can't come back as Osiris. Why? Because Osiris is dead. Now put that in the same context as Ani. Ani dies. He goes to the afterlife. And then he comes back through reincarnation as, of course, something else. Can't be Ani again. So the whole story of Osiris and Isis and Set is to tell you exactly what the Book of the Dead is already saying. Osiris died, goes to the underworld, becomes the ruler of the underworld. Basically what Ani was when he died. Remember, he said, I am a tomb. I am the only one in the primordial waters, meaning that, he was dead. He was the god. He says no other gods that basically oppose him there. Same thing with Osiris. Osiris was ruling. So then you have the rebirth. So since He can't come back, of course, as Osiris. It's symbolically saying that he sends back his energy from the underworld, from the duat, from the afterlife, to impregnate a living woman, which would be Isis. It's all metaphorical. And then she gives birth to who? Horus, who is basically Osiris. But you understand. So it's the same story telling you the same thing about rebirth. So Ani would send back some of his energy so he can go through and experience life again as a different being. And it's the same thing we're saying what happened with Osiris. He comes back as Horus and experiences life as Horus. And depending on what Egyptian story that you read, remember, Horus eventually kills Set. And it's the story that's behind the whole metaphysics and conscious understanding of life, death, and rebirth. And that is the story of Osiris, Set, and Isis. And that's how it's telling it. So, again, you have the life of Osiris, you have the death of Osiris, you have the rebirth of Osiris, just like the life, death, and rebirth of Ani that we just went through. The stories are just a little bit different, but it's talking about the same exact thing. Plain and simple. So when you read Ani's story, it's almost the same as Osiris' story, just a little bit different. But as far as life, the after, getting mummified and all that, going to the afterlife and everything and being reborn, it's the same thing. It's just all the details they don't give you with Osiris because Osiris was the first. So it's telling you the same exact thing. It's about, remember, Ani, he sent back some of his energy. He stayed in the duat. He stayed, telling the ground, so to speak, or stayed in heaven. Same thing with Osiris. Osiris sent back some of his energy, impregnated Isis, had Horus, but he stayed where? The god of the underworld. It's the same thing with Ani. Ani stayed there. He was saying, I am Osiris, I am a tomb and everything like that. All metaphorical story talking about the same exact thing. So the Book of the Dead is backed up by the story of Osiris, Isis, and Set. And when you understand that, I could have just really gave you that story from the beginning and spared, everything else we talked about in this video. But I wanted to save it for the end so you get how it's all tied into each other. And some of you probably have figured it out. A lot of people didn't, of course. But it's the same thing, and the stories are backing up each other. Now, a lot of people want to know how exactly do they obtain, unlocking the subconscious and the conscious mind, making them become one, opening the third eye and having control of it or what have you. A lot of people got their own ideas on how to do that. A lot of people believe you have to be vegan or, can't eat meat. You got to do all these things. You have to be 100% perfect in order, to do this. And you kind of sort of be, but not, as perfect as you may think. Some things are just not possible for you to do. And a lot of the times when you see some of this stuff, it's alluding to something else or it's hinting to something else. So, first of all, I talked about the whole vegan thing. The Egyptians were not vegans. As a matter of fact, when you get into the Book of the Dead, when you start reading all of it, one of the things that you are offered in the afterlife is meat. Bread, meat, beer even. So that tells you something right there. This is all, metaphorical, of course. But again, I talked about how the Egyptians ate meat. And if you missed what I was speaking about as far as meat, it's in one of my videos. But again, I want people to understand that because this is something that weighs heavy on a lot of people's mind because, we love meat and meat is something that you should eat. Again, it's all about the capacity of meat. Again, I talked about how when lions, after they eat a large meal, which is, of course, meat, they fast about a week. They don't eat nothing again. They play around, they burn off the energy until they go out and hunt again because they have, a high capacity for meat. They can consume about 60 pounds or 40 to 60 pounds of meat, right? And then they fast. Our capacity for meat as human beings is about 0.65 grams of meat per pound that we weigh. So on average, you're supposed to eat between 400 and 600 grams of meat per week. So to put it in perspective, that's about a 5-ounce steak is about 80 grams. So that puts the whole thing in perspective. So if you consume the capacity of meat and you continue eating meat, then you're overeating. This is where, weight gain occurs and a lot of sicknesses and diseases occur as well. But then, the amount of meat that you consume don't matter if you're eating bad meat. That's another thing. That's really the whole reason why a lot of people shy away from eating meat, is because you don't know where it's prepared, how it's prepared, if it's stuff put in it or what have you. If you don't know where the meat is coming from, or if it's organic and clean meat, you shouldn't touch it at all. But if you reach the capacity of meat a week, between 400 and 600 grams, and you don't fast after that, if you don't go off of meat for at least the first 3 days of the next week, again, you're not letting the meat do its job, period. And you people who well cook meat, who absolutely torch it, it's no point of really eating the meat. You're not getting the nutrients for it. And one of the reasons why the ancients, and again, there was never an ancient civilization on this planet, never a civilization on this planet before us that was vegan, that did not eat meat. They all ate meat because they understood that meat has nutrients that the brain needs, that you can only get from meat. You can't get it from nothing else. Plain and simple. So if you have animals that are connected, that can do the amazing things that they do, remember, I talked about before how lions can coordinate an attack. I mean, they can set up an animal without no verbal speech. How are they communicating? How do the lions know to hide right here while the herd chase it towards them? How do you coordinate that without speech? So you got to understand that they are communicating on, a spiritual level, telepathy or what have you, another sense that we don't have, that we don't possess, that I believe we once did. And they are on the spiritual level. These animals understand, they know, because, they're connected. So if they're eating meat, that tells you that it's not, can't be bad. So again, this is some new age shit, the whole vegan thing and everything like that. I know a lot of people stress out about it, but meat is not going to destroy your consciousness unless you are burning and destroying that meat. Eat it medium, at least, medium rare. I know a lot of people don't like all that stuff. And if it's not clean, then yeah, of course it's a problem. You're not really consuming what you should consume. You're not getting the nutrients from the meat. And I know a lot of people was into Dr. Sebi, and Dr. Sebi always talked about, not eating meat and everything like that, but he never really got into it as far as the nutrients that meat does provide for you. And I think he really meant to say it. He really meant to not eat meat because it's not clean, because you can't really guarantee 100% what the meat is. I'm going to tell you from experience and from research that you need meat. You got to eat it. You just can't overconsume it. And you should fast once you reach the capacity of meat per week. That next week, at least go 3 days vegan, no meat. Let it work its way through your system, and do a fast at least once a year. Then you have no problem. If you do a body cleanse, I should say, at least once a year, which is basically gone about 40 to 90 days. Once a year, no meat. No meat. Staying on a nice veggie soup diet, consuming a lot of water during that time. Then you it's like resetting the body. You completely cleanse the body of all toxins and everything. There's a lot of pills and stuff out there. A lot of people take golden seal and taking all kinds of stuff to cleanse their body. That's the best, most natural way to do it, is to do the 40 to 90 day fast and completely rid your body of the toxins. And it's some natural things out there that can help you through the process. Garlic and like ginseng and stuff like that. Ginger and a lot of the soups that's out there that people can eat. To juicing, of course, which is one of the best ways to really sustain yourself during that time. These things will help you really cleanse your body and let the meat really work its course and do what it's supposed to do. If you do that fast at least once a year. Some people do it like every 3 months, or 2 times a year, 3 times a year. But if you're doing it, then this will help your body. So as far as becoming completely conscious and awakening the third eye, yeah, you need to be in good shape. You need to at least understand how eating too much meat and how bad meat is going to affect you on a conscious level. So consciously, and a lot of people have experienced this, if you have eaten food, one of the tips I'm going to give you, stop eating past 9 o'clock. If you have a normal day, wake up early in the morning, go to work and then come home and then go to sleep late at night. After 9 o'clock, do not eat. That's one of the things. If you have weight problems or you're trying to really get yourself on a cycle, don't eat after 9, because then after 9 and up until the time you go to bed, your body starts to begin to break down the food. And you probably experienced this before. If you ate after 9 or right before you went to bed, and then you wake up and you got indigestion or heartburn or something like that, you can still taste and feel that food the next morning. That's not good, because then you are not getting the energy from your body. Your body energy, it's not recharging you because it's too busy breaking down that food overnight. Instead of your energy doing its job and going through the process of breaking down, going through the process of basically healing your body, it's breaking down your food. It's breaking down everything that you eat. It's trying to digest it. Your energy is going to something that it should not be going to at night. So instead of it's doing its job and healing the body, restoring your energy, it's breaking down food. And then you wake up at all different times of the night to go to the bathroom or to drink water, and you feel this heartburn, you can feel this indigestion, and it's just like, you're too tired to deal with it, you just go back to sleep. And even when you wake fully up in the morning, you can still feel it in some cases. So when you eat right before bedtime, you go to sleep with that full stomach. A lot of people say, well, I can't go to bed hungry and this and that. You don't understand how much energy you're not giving yourself by doing that. I mean, try it for a week. Don't eat past 9 o'clock. And see how much energy you gain when you wake up. Watch you be on that sun cycle. When the sun comes up, you'll start popping up. You'll be up, you'll be ready to go. You'll feel like completely charged and ready to go. You have a lot more energy. Then your energy can go towards healing, more serious stuff, in the body. That's what it's supposed to be doing. So that's one of the things that you really have to do. And you can't have a real crazy, weird cycle when you're trying to become conscious as far as with food. It's serious. So you really gotta make sure that if you do eat past 9, that it's something that's going to be completely organic and healthy. That's going to, if it's organic and it's cool. If it's not meat past 9 o'clock, let's say you eat like a fruit or apple, something like that, that's fine. You'll process this. It's natural. It's organic. You'll process that real easy, real fast. But if it's like a sandwich, lunch meat, something like that, pizza, wings, yeah, it's not going to be good. And I'm getting into food because this is the biggest thing that they attack. They know we have to eat, so they do so much to the food. So many things that's sick. I put out the video on YouTube about food and what they doing to it. It's crazy, the kind of stuff. These people are sick. They are crazy. They understand how it's attacking your energy and how it's affecting you consciously by you consuming foods, and they get you addicted to these foods to where, you may be up studying and maybe late night, and you may be starving. You may want some chicken wings. You might want some pizza, after 9 o'clock, and it's like, okay, I gotta eat. So you really gotta be conscious of what you're doing and what you put in your body, because one, you ain't gonna do nothing but put yourself to sleep if you eat that heavy food after 9 o'clock anyway. You're just gonna get sleepy. We call it niggeritis. You got the itis. Eat that heavy food, you go right to bed after that, and it's like boom. Why? Because that food just zapped your energy, just stole it, just took it away. And that's what it's designed to do when you start eating these certain foods. You are really stealing your own energy. You're really hindering yourself. If you eating big meals, if you're eating food and you're getting sleepy after that, yeah, it's not good for you, buddy. You need to start changing that. You are zapping your energy. You are sucking years off your life. Seriously, you are taking away energy that could be going towards either healing your kidneys or your heart, liver, lungs, or what have you. Some kind of ailment that you might have. I'll keep getting headaches, my head keep hurting. Yeah, because you're sucking the energy away from yourself. So understand, it's a big deal with food. And I really was going to get into do a whole DVD on food and everything like that and get into it. But I think it's just something that I'm not going to talk about here that's real basic for people to understand. With food, it's just something that you really got to be conscious of what exactly it is and where it came from, who created it, and what they doing or what have you. And a lot of these big corporations don't care. They trying to save a buck. They're trying to destroy your energy, and they don't care how the food is prepared or what have you. And you taking this stuff in, and then the worst part about it is a lot of people liking it and getting addicted to it, and they destroying themselves. So, yeah, as far as becoming completely conscious, opening that third eye, food is a big deal. But meat is not something that you should stay away from. It's something that you should understand more about. Understand how to prepare it, how much you should consume. And don't cheat yourself, because you only hurt yourself when you cheat yourself. 5-ounce steak, 80 grams. So, you can eat. You're gonna have to go. You can really go a whole entire week with eating meat if you eat small portions. That's another thing. People eat too many big portions, and that's another thing I see here, like in America. Like when my friends came over here to visit from Sweden. They seen how big the portions of food here is. In Sweden, you don't get that much food. You go to a restaurant, they don't give you like a huge, steak or a huge portion of food, because they really understand, about nutrition and about how this is going to affect your overall energy. You eat this food at a restaurant, you can get tired and sleepy, and you driving home, you're getting sleepy from, you just left a restaurant. You shouldn't be getting tired. You're supposed to be happy after you ate food and, energetic. You ain't supposed to be. A lot of people think that's a sign. It's a good thing. Oh, yeah, I'm tired. I just bust a grub. I'm tired. Now I'm about to go to sleep. It's not a good thing. It's not at all. So this is something I really want to get you guys to understand and get into your consciousness. The key to really opening that third eye, again, is meditation. I can't stress that enough. Meditation is really going to go hand in hand with the way you treat your body, because then you're going to give yourself more energy when you get your body right, when you get your body on the right cycle. So if you're in a cycle, basically you're waking up in the morning, you're not eating breakfast. Breakfast is bullshit. The first thing you're doing, okay, if you drink coffee, goddamn, come on. Try to leave the coffee alone. That caffeine, you don't need it. Tea is fine. Drink some tea. Drink something that's hot. Hot water, hot tea is good, because what you're doing is, let's say you did eat meat last night, and you stop eating meat at 9 or something like that, and your body is digesting. You'll probably realize this a lot. If you're a conscious eater, some things that you eat, you can feel the mucus build up in your throat. And, a lot of people just keep chewing, they swallow that stuff. And, you are, when you wake up, a lot of times you have a lot of mucus because of the meat of what you ate the day before. One of the ways you can get rid of that is hot water. Drink hot water, drink hot tea during the day. Me, I drink hot tea with lemon and honey. Boom. Every morning I wake up, it's like, clockwork. That's what I do. I wake up, boom. Put the pot on or put the cup in the microwave, bam. Hot tea, lemon, honey, drink it. You clear. So, after the tea, like my first meal, probably be like around, noon, close to noon, 1 o'clock, something like that. Or when I'm drinking tea, I'll probably eat like a bagel, something like that. A bagel with like some salmon or something like that, or like cream cheese or something like that. Or something like fruit with it and everything like that. And I eat that and boom, I'll be good to go. So meditation and, how your cycle is and what you put in your body and how you're eating, the two biggest key things right there. So, you don't have to go vegan. You don't have to be real a Nazi with the whole thing. Something might happen. Some occasions might come up to where you have to eat after 9 o'clock. It happens. As long as it's not multiple occasions, and as long as it's not something super heavy after 9. After 9 o'clock, you're trying to put a steak in your body. That's that's not going to be good. Trying to eat a steak after 9, or double cheeseburger or Whopper, especially Burger King, McDonald's, stuff like that. Leave that shit alone. But after 9 o'clock, yeah, it's you want to just, if you got to eat something clean, something that's gonna help you out. Another place I try to tell people to go. When you eat like Mexican food, they have a lot of vegetables and stuff like that in it. That's good, like avocado and stuff like that. That's all good food. That's stuff that's clean and organic that you can put in your body, that you can eat, you can process real easy. And you'll start to notice that, man. I'm telling you, you got to try it once to get it. When you start eating that clean food and you poop better. It's cleaner. It's easier. You don't have no problems. You're not constipated. And you can feel it's clean. You don't have indigestion and stuff like that. I know the problem is a lot of people, it's tough to just figure out the right foods to eat. You know what I'm saying? And the clean foods to find, to be able to afford it. Not everybody can go to Whole Foods and to these organic places and buy the food. But one of the tough things is getting recipes and everything like that. But you have to sit down and consciously work that out, and to at least get to the point where you're repairing your body, because you're probably so messed up, and you got to repair it. And again, all this stuff is going to start reflecting in the dream state and in meditation. Since I came back from Sweden, I probably gained about 10, 15 pounds here, just eating, the food. It's like, damn, bread is not even healthy. When I did go back to Sweden, I'm back here, obviously in Vegas now, but get ready to go to Spain soon and be back in Sweden for a little bit. Eating the food here, you just tell the difference. It's a big difference between the food. It's like when I eat food over in Sweden, it's just, even when I eat the meat, it's just so clean. You can feel the difference. You eat food here, and some places you go to, you think it's clean, and you eat the meat, and it's like, getting sleepy, tired. But it's a big difference. So, it's one of the reasons why, I'm going to be living in Sweden and end up, spending the rest of my life there, but still have, stuff that I'm doing over here in America. But they're really conscious of the food situation there, and they really understand, they really get it. As I said before, the Swedish people will beat you down. They will burn your restaurant or store to the ground if they find out you got GMO and all kind of crazy stuff. It already happened in Denmark. And this is what they do. They ain't all about that stuff. They don't play no games. So, and it's like law there, they don't let a lot of the restaurant stuff come over there to Sweden because it's not healthy. So, and the ones they do let come, I guarantee you 100% everything that's served in there is all healthy stuff. When I went to KFC in Dubai, it was completely different. Different menu. The chickens was like normal sized chicken, because they really, it's all halal. They're really conscious about the food. And this is what we got to understand here in America. In America, they really don't care. They're really trying to disturb your consciousness. They don't want you opening that third eye or becoming one, or want you to really even understand about it. So you got to be really conscious and understand what you're doing, what you're putting in your body. And, again, it's not about not eating meat. It's about understanding when to eat meat and how to take care of your body after you have eaten it. Fasting and being conscious of where the meat comes from and stuff like that. Meditation, big part. So once you got your body right, and you in meditation and you're working, everything is just going to link up. And then you're going to start noticing it in the dream state. You're going to start to notice it during meditation. And you'll see that magic that everybody's talking about as far as what happens in the dream state and the meditation. You'll get it. It'll start happening. I'm telling you I can't show you, but I'm telling you, this is what I'm doing. This is why I know what I know, because I've experienced it. I wouldn't be able to make these videos if I didn't. And when I started meditating, over 12 years ago, like I said, the first year was like, what the fuck? Is it working? What am I doing? But I kept doing it. I stuck with it. And because I started to notice, what I did notice was life started getting better. Things start working out. And the little problems that I would run into in life just stopped happening. And I picked up on that. So it's like, keep meditating, keep doing it, see where it go. Boom, 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 boom. Then I think when I had my first conscious experience in the dream state is when I knew. It was real. It was like, if I didn't tell you before, I would tell you now. What happened was I was running from Freddy Krueger, chasing me throughout the dream, scared out my brain, and I was trying to wake up, and it just something clicked that, I'm in the dream and I'm trying to wake up. So I was conscious in the dream that I was dreaming, and it hit me. Then I woke up immediately, and then I was trying to get that back for a long time, I knew. I was like, I'm dreaming right now. I'm in the dream. Like I knew. I was conscious of it. Everything snapped me right out of the dream. And I was trying to get back to that for a long time. And it didn't happen, until I started talking to the monks when I went to Thailand, that first visit. And I told the monk about it, and I was talking to him, and he would say, yeah, you're going to be, every time you become conscious, it's going to snap you out of the dream. You're going to come out of it. And it takes a long time, a lot of practice, and a lot of meditation to really get past that point. But, and they gave me a lot of pointers that, we're going to get into in the part 2 meditation DVD. But, yeah, I want you guys to really take this stuff into your consciousness and really understand, what this stuff is all about and what it takes to actually, unlock that third eye in consciousness. So let's recap everything. So when you go look at everything, when you look at it all, the Book of the Dead is giving you the keys. It's trying to metaphorically tell you the process of the afterlife and what you have to do to make it there, one, and what you need to do once you're there, which is to reincarnate, to really grow in consciousness. And it's more levels to that, which we'll get into down the road in different videos. But I was gonna do like a series to this, like a part 1, 2, 3, or whatever. But I was like, it's different. Hunefer's Book of the Dead, Imhotep's Book of the Dead. I mean, they have different stuff. But what is the constant? What is the thing that they all have that is the same? Is that what we just went through in this video, and understanding that. And again, it's all backed up by the story of Osiris. It goes hand in hand. And when you understand this, I mean, like I said, you guys don't understand how privileged you are to have this information. It took me years to get it, to understand this. I just gave it to you real simply and easily, easy. Took less than 2 hours to do so. And you got this information that to me is priceless. It's just that simple. So you have this now. You understand this. And you see how the videos, part 3 of Mystery School, which was, that video was so damn good. So many people, even me myself, I was like, damn, this was a really good video. So many messages and compliments on that video. But there was a lot of information in there. That's why I put out the preview, if you've seen it on Facebook or YouTube, the preview to that, because it was so much information in there. It was good. But you'll see what this video and everything I've been putting out, how in later videos, how it all ties in together. Like, it's like I built everything I'm going to put out already in my head, and I know the steps. I need to put the order. I need to put the videos in order for everything to make sense, and that's basically what I'm doing. So, there's a lot more that's going to be coming from me that I'm going to be putting out, and I still have to get back. We're going to get back into Metal Netter, prepare for Metal Netter. I think it's 1 more video to that, 2 more videos to that, and then we're going to get into the Metal Netter itself. And that's going to be deep. Still, trip to Egypt coming up to Kemet. Get my team together for that. And we'll finally finish off the Saturn Satan series. That's going to be coming up. A lot of stuff coming up to DVD on the Moors. I'm actually going to Mallorca, Spain. I'm going to be there, the castles and everything like that. Do a DVD there on that, because I got to go there anyway. And, yeah, it's a lot to come. But, recapping this whole thing, man, it's just, it's a book that's really put out to just give you the Book of the Dead and to have you look at it and say, oh, well, these Egyptians are stupid. They don't know what they're talking about. This book is crazy. So, that's how they do you sometimes. They'll give you this thing, and, if you buy it and then you read it, and it's like you get to a couple pages and you put it down like, it's crazy. And that's how a lot of people have written off ancient Egyptian mythology and culture as just being this superstitious mumbo-jumbo bullcrap that these weird old people believed in, not understanding the power that's in Kemet, not understanding what's there and what they accomplished. They look at this stuff as primitive, just stupid stuff that they didn't know what they was doing. But that's how some of the books is put out, for you to just look at it and say, oh, this what this stuff is about? Oh, this is stupid. Leave it alone. And then you never get what we just discussed in this video. You never get this information. So this is one of the reasons why I'm put it out, so you can have it in your consciousness. It's out there, you understand what it's about, and you get the whole concept now of the afterlife and what it takes to get there, which we'll get into more of that later on down the line. Now, one thing I want to discuss before I go. Again, I want to thank you guys for purchasing the DVD and taking the time to watch the entire thing. And by doing this, by downloading the video or buying the DVD, you have helped out the process of this social media site. Now, a lot of people just don't get it. Now, since you guys are actually serious about, this kind of information because you spent your money and you actually watch the entire, DVD. I can express a little bit more to you since I know you're serious. So the DVD is, not the DVD, the website is not just about social media. It's what's going to be kind of embedded into the whole social media site is going to be a lot of help for us, to help us grow as a people, to help us build businesses, to help us get the kind of housing and education and healthcare that we need on our own. So long story short, it's going to be a lot of things implanted into this whole social media site that's going to help us as black people. Seriously. It's not just going to be for black people. It's going to be for everybody. But it's not going to be to where it's set up against us because we're going to own it. It's going to be us. And where it's a system that's set up against us. This is something that we can have something to where everybody can contribute to help everybody out. So, business-wise, GoFundMe is a good thing. But if we had something like that, imagine if we had like a GoFundMe for the black neighborhoods, you know what I'm saying? So it's like if you have somebody who has the degrees, who has some money, but not enough, to open up a business in a black community. Because this is what I want to do. I want to systematically go through the black community and take the businesses over and put businesses in the black community. And we can do that because there's people out there who got the degrees, who got a little bit of money, who want to open a business or have a business as an investment opportunity, but might need the backing of the community or the backing of people who have money in order to do so. So if we finance each other, if we do things or put out the information to where we can help each other build our communities up economically, it's going to be a good thing for black people. And this website is going to help us do that. And it's not just with, economics and, it's housing and healthcare and things like that. I want us to have a network where we can understand how to find black businesses, where they at, who these people are and what they're doing. All of this is embedded into this whole social media site. I'm going to put another video on it. It's some people who donate this, they didn't hit $1,000 yet. So I guess a lot of people not really serious about it or don't really understand or just don't want to fund it for whatever reason. But, it's not a problem. It's going to happen. It's something that's going to happen. It might take a little bit longer, but it's going to happen. And it's going to be something that's going to be good, for us to have, or to at least have this model out there, so where we can test it and people can see and understand what it's for and what it's going to do and how it's going to help us moving forward, because we see the powers that they have to hinder us. We talk about, you got a racist man who was running the country, the presidency. This dude is fueling white racist people to do things against African Americans. We have a system that is under this man that is going to be doing things to hinder African Americans. If we don't combat this in some way, we can no longer sit back and just keep accepting this stuff. We got to stop doing that. We just, he the president. Let's just, as long as he ain't coming knocking on my door, messing with me, I can go to work. We're going to fall, people. We already falling. Down the line, it's going to hit you. Again, the whole parable about if you on the block and you see the person at the end of your block get robbed and you do nothing. Then the next person get robbed and you do nothing. The next person get robbed and you do nothing. Eventually they're coming to you. So when you see those people go into that next house, you're supposed to be down there stopping, and you and everybody that's behind you and everybody that's in front of you that did not get robbed yet. But instead, everybody just going back in the house and letting it hold. The ripple effect happen, and eventually it's going to happen to you. They're going to be in your business, or they're going to do something that's going to affect you and affect your life. It's going to be too late. And that's basically what's happening to us. So somebody got to do something. And there's some people out there, not just me, other people who have organizations and have things that they're trying to do to get us, where we should be, at least to have a competitive fighting chance. This is going to be big, and it's going to help us do that. And if I can get it off the ground, it's something that's going to be great. And especially if I can do so, with the backup that I have, with the people that I have behind me now, it's going to be great. So, this is what I do. Computers is my thing. So this is going to be nice. And it's not going to take the fun away from social media, because you're still going to be able to have that aspect of it. But it's going to have the serious side to it with the education part. And then with everything that's going to be put in there to help us out. I think it's going to be something good. And hopefully a lot of people eventually start seeing that and support the whole movement. But you guys have done so by purchasing this. I appreciate it. You know, you guys are great, awesome. A lot of my videos they took down off of YouTube. I'm in the process of reworking a new website and putting up some new videos. So it's a lot of stuff, again, that I got my hands into. Again, the book process, I'm telling you, it's just one of those things. It's like, I'm a perfectionist. I want this to be right. And, you know, the publisher, of course, you know, when you find problems, you come back and let me know, and then, you know, we take it from there. But it's delaying the process. That's all it is. The book will be out. It will be out soon. So, you know, I had a definite date, but it keeps getting pushed back because of problems in a couple places. But again, I don't want to settle. I want it to be right, and it'll be out. So a lot of people will have it. And again, as I said, it's going to be a lot of people that I've seen who has been supporting me. I know who you are because I see every time you purchase. Who has been supporting. I'm going to make sure you guys get books free for your support. And there's probably like a handful of people that's definitely I'm going to do that for. Yeah, that's about it. So I want to thank you guys again for taking the time to watch and getting this understanding of the book of Coming Forth by Day. I think this one says Going Forth, but it's really Coming Forth by Day. Either one. Book of the Dead. I think Wallace Budge gave the name Book of the Dead, I believe. But it's the book of Coming Forth by Day. Now you understand it. You have it into your consciousness. Share it. Let people know. It's not demonic. It's not stupid. It's something great that they need to know. And now you know it. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch and support. See you guys next video.